watching this, I'm not able to make Comic Station this week, but that's because I'm on vacation. You guys what? For new releases, check out Unlikely Hero Studios Super, as well as we have some videos from Lido for some reviews, but I will be back next week. Until then.
Hello. Today I've got two comics to look at, both from Dark Horse Comics. First one is Conan, Hour of the Dragon #5, and if you've been following my reviews online, you know I've had a lot of things to say about that one, and not really many of them good. Well, this is no exception. The story follows Conan after losing his country that he rules, Aquilonia, to a neighboring tyrant. It seems to be an attempt on the writer's part to move this character and story back to basics for Conan, making him less of a king and more of the wandering adventurer type. The problem, though, is that that's backtracking and it makes him far less interesting. We're moving away from him being cool or something like that to just him being a standard RPG fantasy character. Just a big, beefy dude who scowls a lot to move the plot forward. This isn't helped by the fact that the villain is incredibly dull and one-note. He has no style and no depth. Every time he shows up, he has one note that he hits, and that's "Mwahaha," and he hits that every scene he's in. It gets really old really quickly. The bigger problem I'm starting to notice in this issue, though, is that the story doesn't exactly flow. It just sort of falls from one quest into another. Like, first Conan has to escape, then he has to rescue someone, and now he has to go find a gem. We're not accomplishing anything, just falling from adventure to adventure. It's compounded by how easily Conan can defeat his enemies in this, slicing through them like they're butter, and the fact that the framing device of the story is Conan telling you this after he's already reclaimed the kingdom, so there's no real tension whether or not he will do it. Another weird thing about this issue is that a completely new plot has now been entered into it, in that we've introduced a weird thing with an ancient wizard who's coming back who has a magic what's-it that Conan has to find, which seems odd for a 5th issue of a 6-issue series to bring in a big world-threatening plot right now, but what do I know? Another big thing that bringing this whole series down is that the world that we're going through isn't very interesting, cool, or unique. It's just a lot of dull standard things for fantasy stuff. You go to your city, you go to your forest. It's like World of Warcraft, but without the flavor to it, I guess. And as usual with these comics, there's no recap for new readers, so unless you are reading the series before, I would not recommend this one. And the next one I have is Dark Horse Presents. Now, this is full of content. You will get your money's worth in bulk, if not necessarily in quality, sad to say. There's a handful of good stories in here, but they're sort of buried under a lot of more mixed ones and a couple that are really bad. Going through them, there are a lot of good ones in here, though, like the opening one, The Silver Angel, Poe adaptation, a hilarious cartoonish one called Mrs. Plopsworth Kitchen, along with some more mixed ones like Saber-Tooth Swordsman and Nosferatu Wars. They're very good, but they don't stick out, even though they are quite good. Like, the writing and the artwork never really combine the way they need to help these things pop out in your memory after you read them, except for 2 of them. They just pass by too quickly, and there are too many additional stories in between, which are very beefy, like there's a lot of story, but they're still very mediocre, particularly Juice Squeezers, Trekker, Alabaster Boxcar Tales. Those are 3 continuations of pre-existing stories, but even so, it doesn't really feel like a lot of action is going on in them, and the artwork is just very generic. The story is decent. Again, these aren't bad, they're just not very good, and there's so much of them that it kind of overpowers the taste of the better stories in it. And you also have 2 installments of ongoing series as well, with Blood and Mr. Monster Dark Stern, which were legitimately bad. Mr. Monster in particularly was very, very bad, and I felt brought down the issue as a whole. Dark Horse Presents has done good work before. It's quite the good anthology series, but I wouldn't call this one of their better installments. I'd wait for something better, give it a miss. That's all I've got, so see you next time.